one and all, welcome back. Hello, how are you doing? Are you having a good time? I forgot to update my title. That's my bad, you know. I'm so good at that now. It's because we switched over to OBS and you know, that kind of changes it up a little bit. It doesn't ask me if I want to you know, do that. Or like it doesn't at first tell me like, "Hey, want to make a new title?" or anything like that. So yeah. All right, there we go. But hello, everybody. I hope everyone's having a good time. Uh, now that I, updated the actual title, you'll probably be questioning what the hell's going on. Like, why? Uh, we're really just gonna read a book today. That's right. We're gonna chill. We're gonna read for a little bit because I've been meaning to read. I enjoy reading. I just forget to do it all the time. So I definitely want to do that more. And so I kind of wanted to, give that a try right now. Also, I don't know if it's working yet. I guess I could check. Um trying I am trying out subtitles as well, like closed captions. So especially since oh, okay. Is that did that work? Okay. That works. I'm trying out closed captions just because, if we're going to read a book, might as well, right? I don't know exactly how it works or if it works well, but we're going to just give it a try and see how it goes. But I hope everyone's having a good time, having a good day. We're just here having a nice chill time. We're just going to read a little bit. Oof, my bitrate is unstable. Oh my god. We're gonna get started after, of course, the first set of ads, because it's always a good idea. Damn. My bitrate is like very far down for whatever reason. But you know what? That's just freaking uh the Twitch doing its thing. Sorry. I'm also trying like so many different things. Da 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 do da boo. Go over here. Sorry. This is new to me, so we're trying. This is very different. There's going to be hiccups. This is the first time we're doing something like this, so it's going to take a second to get used to, especially with the closed captions, because I'm trying to get them working and all that. So, um, oh, okay. So I need to use Chrome. Sorry about that. Which kind of sucks because I have so many tabs open now. And I think that's what is making my bitrate so unstable. But I also don't think it really matters that much. It's not like we're playing a game. We're just we're reading a book. All right. Let me reopen that and get that all set up. Dashboard, captions, start listening. Okay, so closed captions should be working. If you click the little, there should be like a little closed caption-y thing or whatever, somewhere around there, somewhere on screen. I don't actually know where, because I for some reason can't see it on my end, so it's kind of harder to do. But yeah. All right. Ads are about to start in about 10 seconds. So once that happens, you know, we'll get started. Okay, there we go. So if you click the right of the thing, you should be able to see the closed captions. I think it comes up. There we go. Yeah, so closed captions should be working. If you're on mobile, you have to like go and click the actual thing um down in like the lower area, like where you would click all the other things. It should automatically be working on desktop, and if it's not, you should be able to click CC on the left and click it on, click it off, and then it should work. So, but all right, ad has officially started. So there's that. That means I can finish getting ready with the rest of the things I was doing. There. I was gonna just have Zara's stream open, but my bit rate's way too low. I don't think I can do that. So, but yeah. So as soon as the ad is over, we'll officially get started. It's gonna be a little weird. It's gonna be a little, you know, scuffed, but I hope you guys enjoy it. We're gonna be reading a book today. A book I've been meaning to read. It's just been a while since I've read a book, and I've wanted to read this book for a while. And it is in the public domain, so I don't need to worry about copyright. Same with I am gonna have music on today, guys. I'm gonna have just some background music. We're gonna listen to some classical music, and we're gonna have just a nice chill time as we read this book. I don't know how long we're going to go into it, because I'm not the fastest reader. We might only get a few things in, but because it is a collection of short stories. So, but welcome back from the ads. Hopefully, it was all right, and I will try to keep an eye on the ads and stuff to make sure that I am pausing between it. But all right. But you guys know this isn't really the best room to do this. It's like, I'm just up in the little top right. That doesn't work. So you know what? We're gonna just mosey on out of here. We're gonna go to another special room that I set up specifically in the lab. And oh look, we're in the nice little sitting room. Look at that. I set up a nice little sitting room just in the lab for us. That way we can have a nice cozy fire next to apparently mountains. I don't know if that's actually there in the lab, but it's there. If you can't tell, I just Googled basically a background and got it off of like Adobe shots or whatever. So, you know, just just something like it was Adobe shots or whatever. So, one of their free backgrounds. So, it's just a nice little place for us to hang out and just have a good time. So, why don't we have a nice time reading? But oh yeah, let me 1 sec. Sorry. You know what? I totally forgot. Let me yeah, I gotta go this way. Don't worry about it. I gotta go turn on the music. No, not that. No, not that. No, no, not that. This one. Okay, how about this? What do you guys think about this? Huh? Huh? Does that work? Don't worry that I'm moonwalking back in. Does that work for you guys? Huh? Just some nice classical music as we, get together to read some books. That work for you? It works for me. All right. Let's see. Okay. Damn it, I forgot the book. One sec. Okay, let's see. Kama Sutra, no. Cat in the Hat, no. Let's see. What do we got? Harry Potter, no thank you. We'll throw that in garbage right now. What else do we got? Oh, okay. Here, guys, I found it. Okay, one sec. I did find it. Alright. I'm gonna throw it. Catch it for me. Okay? Alright, and go. Oh god, you guys threw it in the fire. Oh no, god, why did you... Guys, what are you doing? Why did you... You guys were wide open. What did you guys do? Okay, one sec. Let me, here, I'll come get it. Don't worry. I'll get it before it burns, okay? Okay, I got it. Ow, ow, ow. It burns, it burns, it burns. Oh, okay, it's fine. Just has a little bit of scorch marks. Don't worry about it. And don't worry that I did it with my mind, because I can't move my arms. Every morning I break my arms. But, aw, look at that. We got our nice little book. Arsene Lupin Gentleman Burglar. What do you guys think? Are you guys ready to read? We're just gonna hang out and read for a little bit. I don't think we're gonna go for too long, but, because I already did stream today. But, there we go. We got our book. We got, our beautiful background. I think we're ready. What do you guys think? We all good? We all set? Also, I hope you guys enjoyed my dumb little opening that I wanted to do. So, we got music, we got our book, and we just got a pretty place to read. So, I hope you guys enjoyed the little dumb bit that I felt like doing to start this stream off. So, but alrighty. Let's get started. In real life, it's not an actual copy of the book. It's just on the Global Gray. This is brought to you by Global Gray Books. Nothing but ebooks. They have like a whole collection of public domain books. So if you ever want to just like sit down and read a book from the public domain, you can go on here. You don't even need to download it. You can just read it off the web. So, but yeah. So if you don't know Arsene Lupin, it's Lupin or Lupin, whichever one you want to say it as. No, it is not Lupin the Third from the anime. That is not it. But this, I believe, is who that character is based on. So basically, Arsene Lupin was a character created by Maurice LeBlanc, who is a gentleman burglar. He steals, but he has a heart of gold. He just has a nice heart of gold and he steals, but he's cool for doing it. And it was first published in 1907, so more than way over 100 years ago. So, and was actually it has like a little bit of facts on here that I'm reading. So it was translated in 1910 is when it got translated. So, but yeah. And chat, I know we're reading a book, but if you guys want to say comments, or if you guys if you have any comments or just want to talk, don't forget to type in chat. We are reading a book, but we're also here to have a good time and just appreciate some literature. But yeah, so let's get started. So we got Arsene Lupin Gentleman Burglar, and I really, really hope the closed captions are going, because we're going to be reading, and if you want to follow along, you can turn on the closed captions so that you can, follow along with no problem. So, and I guess I should say that this is a collection of 9 short stories, so we're not going to read all of them, mainly because I'm a slow reader. But we're gonna try and get through like 2, maybe 3 of them today, and see if you guys. I want to see if you guys like it. Like, it's literally just gonna be me reading, but we're just gonna have a nice time, I think. So, but also during this time, get food, get water. You're just gonna hear me talking. There's nothing on screen except for the dumb little bit that I did at the beginning, and that's about it. So I hope you guys enjoy just a nice chill time. So we start with it is broken up to chapters, so 9 chapters, and chapter 1 is called The Arrest of Arsene Lupin. It was a strange ending to a voyage that had commenced in a most auspicious manner. The transatlantic steamship La Provenance was a swift and comfortable vessel under the command of a most affable man. The passengers consisted of select and delightful society. The charm of new acquaintances and improvised amusements served music a little loud in my ear, served to make the time pass agreeably. We enjoyed the pleasant sensation of being separated from the world, living as it were upon an unknown island, and consequently obliged to be social with each other. Have you ever stopped to consider how much originality and spontaneity emanate from these various individuals who, on the preceding evening, did not even know each other, and who are now, for several days, condemned to lead a life of extreme intimacy, jointly defying the anger of the ocean, the terrible onslaught of the waves, the violence of the tempest, and the agonizing monotony of the calm and sleepy water? Such a life becomes a sort of tragic existence, with its storms and its grandeurs, its monotony and its diversity, and that is why, perhaps we embark upon that short voyage with mingled feelings of pleasure and fear. But during the past few years, a new sensation has been added to the life of the transatlantic traveler. The little floating island is now attached to the world from which it was once quite free. A bond united them, even in the very heart of the watery wastes of the Atlantic. That bond is the wireless telegraph, by means of which we receive news in the most mysterious manner. We know full well that the message is not transported by the medium of a hollow wire. Also, I don't know why the music keeps just randomly being all like, oh, go back to full. No, the mystery is even more inexplicable, more romantic, and we must have recourse to the wings of the air in order to explain this new miracle. During the first day of the voyage, we felt that we were being followed, escorted, preceded even, by that distant voice which, from time to time, whispered to one of us a few words from the preceding world. 2 friends spoke to me. 10, 20 others sent gay or somber words of parting to other passengers. On the second day, at a distance of 500 miles from the French coast, in the midst of a violent storm, we received the following message by means of the wireless telegraph. Arsene Lupin is on your vessel. First cabin, blonde hair, wound right forearm, traveling alone under name of R. I'm annoyed with the music. It just keeps going up. At that moment, a terrible flash of lightning rent the stormy skies. The electric waves were interrupted. The remainder of the dispatch never reached us. Of the name under which Arsene Lupin was revealed himself, we knew only the initial. If the news had been of some other character, I have no doubt the secret would have been carefully guarded by the telegraph operator, as well as by the officers of the vessel. But it was one of those events calculated to escape from the most rigorous discretion. The same day, no one knew how, the incident became a moment of current gossip, and every passenger was aware that the famous Arsene Lupin was hiding in our midst. Arsene Lupin in our midst, the irresponsible burglar whose exploits had been narrated in all the newspapers during the past few months, the mysterious individual with whom Ganimard, our shrewdest detective, had been engaged in an implacable, sorry, I'm very bad with words, conflict amidst interesting and picturesque surroundings. Arsene Lupin, the eccentric gentleman who operates only in the chateau and salons, and who one night entered the residence of Baron Shorman, but emerged empty-handed, leaving, however, his card on which he had scribbled these words: Arsene Lupin, Gentleman Burglar, will return when the furniture is genuine. Arsene Lupin, the man of 1,000 disguises, in turn, a chauffeur, detective, bookmaker, Russian physician, Spanish bullfighter, commercial traveler, robust youth, or decrepit old man. And consider this startling situation. Arsène Lupin was wandering about within the limited bounds of a transatlantic steamer, in that very small corner of the world, in that dining saloon, in that smoking room, in that music room. Arsène Lupin was perhaps this gentleman, or that one. My neighbor at the table, share of my stateroom. And this condition of affairs will last for 5 days, exclaimed Miss Nelly, under down, next morning. It is unbearable. I hope you will be arrested. Then, addressing me, she asked, and you, Monsieur de Andres, you are on intimate terms with the captain. Surely you know something. I should have been delighted had I possessed any information that would interest Miss Nelly. She was one of those magnificent creatures who inevitably attract attention in every assembly. Wealth and beauty form an irresistible combination, and Nelly possessed both. Educated in Paris under the care of a French mother, she was now going to visit her father, the millionaire underdown of Chicago. She was accompanied by one of her friends, Lady Gerland. At first, I had decided to open a flirtation with her, but in the rapidly growing intimacy of the voyage, I was soon impressed by her charming manner. My feelings became too deep and referential for a mere flirtation. Moreover, she accepted my attentions with a certain degree of favor. She condensed to laugh at my witticisms and display an interest in my stories. Sorry, I'm making sure my mic's working, obviously. Oh, it's not letting me move. There we go. Okay, just wanted to make sure that my mic was on. Yet, I felt that I had a rival in the person of a young man with quiet and refined tastes, and it struck me at times that she preferred his taciturn humor to my Parisian frivolity. He formed one in the circle of admirers that surrounded Miss Nelly at the time she addressed to me the foregoing question. We were all comfortable seated in our deck chairs. The storm of the preceding evening had cleared the sky. The weather was now delightful. I have no definite knowledge, mademoiselle, I replied, but cannot we ourselves investigate the mystery quite as well as the detective Ganimard, the personal enemy of Arsène Lupin? Oh, you are progressing very fast, monsieur. Not at all, mademoiselle. Not at all, mademoiselle. In the first place, let me ask, do you find the problem a complicated one? Very complicated. Have you forgotten the key we hold for the solution to the problem? What key? In the first place, Lupin calls himself Monsieur R. Rather vague information, she replied. Secondly, he is traveling alone. Does that help you? She asked. Thirdly, he is blonde. Well. Hi, Murphy. Thank you for the rat. Then, we have only to peruse the passenger list and proceed by process of elimination. I had that list in my pocket. I took it out and glanced through it. Then I remarked, I find that there are only 13 men on the passenger list whose names begin with the letter R. Only 13? Yes, in the first cabin. And of those 13, I find that 9 of them are accompanied by women, children, or servants. That leaves only 4 who are traveling alone. First, the Marquis de Raverdan, secretary to the American ambassador, interrupted Miss Nellie. I know him. Major Rawson, I continued. Uh, he is my uncle, someone said. Mon Rivolta. Here! Exclaimed an Italian whose face was concealed beneath a heavy black beard. Miss Nellie burst into laughter and exclaimed, That gentleman can scarcely be called a blonde. Very well, then, I said. We are forced to the conclusion that the guilty party is the last one on the list. What is his name? What is his name? Mon Rosaine. Rosaine. Does anyone know him? No one answered, but Miss Nellie turned to the taciturn young man whose attentions to her had annoyed me, and said, Well, Monsieur Rosaine, why do you not answer? All eyes were now turned upon him. He was a blonde. I must confess that I myself felt a shock of surprise, and the profound silence that followed her question indicated that the others present also viewed the situation with the feeling of sudden alarm. However, the idea was an absurd one, because the gentleman in question presented an air of the most perfect innocence. Why do I not answer? He said. Because considering my name, my position as a solitary traveler, and the hair of my color, I've already reached the same conclusion, and now I think I should be arrested. He presented a strange appearance as he uttered these words. His thin lips were drawn closer than usual, and his face was ghastly pale, whilst his eyes were streaked with blood. Of course, he was joking, yet his appearance and attitude impressed us strangely. But you have not the wound, said Miss Nellie naively. That is true, he replied. I lack the wound. Then he pulled up his sleeve, removing his cuff, and showed us his arm. But that action did not deceive me. He had shown us his left arm, and I was on the point of calling his attention to the fact when another incident diverted our attention. Lady Gerland, Miss Nellie's friend, came running towards us in a state of great excitement, exclaiming, My jewels! My pearls! Someone has stolen them all! Don't worry about my voices, they're gonna be dumb. No, they were not all gone, as we soon found out. The thief had taken only part of them. Very curious thing. Of the diamond sunbursts, jeweled pendants, bracelets, and necklaces, the thief had taken, not the largest, but the finest and most valuable stones. The mounting were lying upon the table. I saw them there, despoiled of their jewels, like flowers from which the beautiful colored petals had been ruthlessly plucked, and this theft must have been committed at the time Lady Gerland was taking her tea, in broad daylight, in a stateroom opening on a much frequented corridor. Moreover, the thief had been obligated to force open the door of the stateroom, search for the jewel case, which was hidden at the bottom of the hat box, open it, select his booty, and remove it from the mountings. Of course, all the passengers instantly reached the same conclusion. It was the work of Arsene Lupin. That day, at the dinner table, the seats to the right and left of Rosaine remained vacant, and during the evening it was rumored that the captain had placed him under arrest, which information produced a feeling of safety and relief. We breathed once more. That evening we resumed our games and dances. Miss Nellie, especially displayed a spirit of thoughtless gaiety, which convinced me that if Rosaine's attentions had been agreeable to her in the beginning, she had already forgotten them. Her charm and good humor completed my conquest. At midnight, under a bright moon, I declared my devotion with an ardor that did not seem to displease her. But, next day, to our general amazement, Rosaine was at liberty. We learned that the evidence against him was not sufficient. He had produced documents that were perfectly regular, which showed that he was the son of a wealthy merchant of Bordeaux. Besides, his arms did not bear the slightest trace of a wound. Documents, certificates of birth, exclaimed. Oh, documents? Certificate of births, exclaimed the enemies of Rosaine. Of course, Arsene Lupin would furnish you as many as you desire, and as to the wound, he never had it, or he has removed it. Then it was proven that at the time of the theft, Rosaine was promenading on the deck, to which fact his enemies replied that a man like Arsene Lupin could commit a crime without being actually present. And then, apart from all other circumstances, there remained one point which even the most skeptical could not answer. Who, except Rosaine, was traveling alone, was a blonde, and bore a name beginning with R? To whom did the telegram point, who were not Rosaine? And when Rosaine, a few minutes before breakfast, came boldly toward our group, Miss Nellie and Lady Gerland arose and walked away. An hour later, a manuscript circular was passed from hand to hand amongst the sailors, the stewards, and the passengers of all classes, and announced that Mon Louis Rosaine offered a reward of 10,000 francs for the discovery of Arsène Lupin, or other person in possession of the stolen jewels. And if no one assists me, I will unmask the scoundrel myself, declared Rosaine. Rosaine against Arsène Lupin, or rather, according to current opinion, Arsène Lupin himself against Arsène Lupin. The contest promised to be interesting. Nothing developed during the next 2 days. We saw Rosaine wandering about day and night, searching, questioning, investigating. The captain also displayed commendable activity. He caused the vessel to be searched from stern to stern, ransacked every stateroom under the plausible theory that the jewels might be concealed anywhere, except in the thief's own room. I suppose they will find out something soon, remarked Miss Nellie to me. He may be a wizard, but he cannot make diamonds and pearls become invisible. Certainly not, I replied. But he should examine the lining of our hats and vests and everything we carry with us. Then, exhibiting my Kodak, a 2x12 with which I had been photographing her in various poses, I added, in an apparatus no longer than that, a person could hide all of Lady Gerland's jewels. He could pretend to take pictures and no one would suspect the game. But I have heard it said that every thief leaves some clue behind him. That may be generally true, I replied, but there's one exception. Arsène Lupin. Why? Because he concentrates his thoughts not only on the theft, but on all the circumstances connected with it that could serve as a clue to his identity. A few days ago, you were more confident. Yes, but since I have seen him at work. And what do you think about it now? She asked. Well, in my opinion, we're wasting our time. Okay, we got 3 minutes until ads, just so everybody knows. I will pause. I love this song by Beethoven. Classical music can hit. It can hit pretty hard. It's pretty damn good at times, especially when you're just reading. Alright. And as a matter of fact, the investigation had produced no result. But, in the meantime, the captain's watch had been stolen. He was furious. He quickened his efforts and watched Rosaine more closely than before. But on the following day, the watch was found in the second officer's collar box. This incident caused considerable punishment and displayed the humorous side of Arsène Lupin. A burglar though he was, but dilettante as well. He combined business with pleasure. He reminded us of the author who almost died in a fit of laughter provoked by his own play. Certainly, he was an artist in his particular line of work, and whenever I saw Rosaine, gloomy and reserved, and thought of the doubled role that he was playing, I accorded him a certain measure of admiration. On the following evening, the officer on deck duty heard groans emanating from the darkest corner of the ship. He approached and found a man lying there, his head enveloped in a thick gray scarf and his hands tied together with a heavy cord. It was Rosaine. He had been assaulted, thrown down, and robbed. A card pinned to his coat bore these words: Arsène Lupin accepts with pleasure the 10,000 francs offered by Rosaine. Sorry. As a matter of fact, the stolen pocketbook contained 20,000 francs. Of course, some accuse the unfortunate man of having simulated this attack on himself, but apart from the fact that he could not have bound himself in that manner, it was established that the writing on the card was entirely different from that of Roseanne, but, on the contrary, resembled the handwriting of Arsene Lupin, as it was reproduced in an old newspaper found on board. Thus, it appeared that Roseanne was not Arsène Lupin, but was Roseanne, the son of a Bordeaux merchant, and the presence of Arsène Lupin was once more affirmed, and that in a most alarming manner. Such was the state of terror amongst the passengers that none would remain alone in a stateroom or wander singly in unfrequented parts of the vessel. All right, ad is about to start, so I think I'll pause right there, and I'll actually start over with that paragraph since it kind of breaks it up, but I hope people are enjoying it. This is interesting. I'm making a guess right now. I think the narrator himself is Arsène Lupin. Like the guy that we've been following, I think is Arsène Lupin. Only because I think it's cool. I think it would be cool. Like it's the perspective of. Also, please let me know if the music is too loud, if I'm too quiet, anything like that, and let me know if the closed captions are working. Pretty please with a cherry on top. Ads officially started, so we'll be back again in about a minute 20. Oh, I love my friends. They're fun. Oh. Man. So. By the way, it is not broken up in like pages, so I don't know what page we're on or anything like that. It's literally just one long line of text, so it is broken up into like the chapters, but welcome back from the ads. Hopefully they were good. Alright, let us continue. Such was the state of terror amongst the passengers that none would remain alone in a stateroom or wander singly in unfrequented parts of the vessel. We clung together as a matter of safety, and yet the most intimate acquaintances were estranged by a mutual feeling of distrust. Arsène Lupin was now anybody and everybody. Our excited imaginations attributed to him miraculous and unlimited power. We supposed him capable of assuming the most unexpected disguises, of being, by turns, a highly respectable Major Rawson, or the noble Marquis de Raverdon, or even, for we no longer stopped with the accusing letter of R, or even such, or such a person well known to all of us, and having wife, children, and servants. The first wireless dispatches from America brought no news. At least, the captain did not communicate any to us. Silence was not reassuring. Our last day on the steamer seemed interminable. We lived in a constant fear of some disaster. This time it would not be a simple theft or comparatively harmless assault. It would be a crime, a murder. No one imagined that Arsène Lupin would confine himself to those two trifling offenses. Absolute master of the ship, the authorities powerless, he could do whatever he pleased. Our property and lives were at his mercy. Yet those were delightful hours for me. since they secured to me the confidence of Miss Nellie. Deeply moved by those startling events, and being of a highly nervous nature, she spontaneously sought at my side a protection and security that I was pleased to give her. Inwardly, I blessed Arsene Lupin. Had he not been the means of bringing me and Miss Nellie closer to each other? Thanks to him, I could now indulge in delicious dreams of love and happiness, dreams that I felt were not unwelcome to Miss Nellie. Her smiling eyes authorized me to make them. The softness of her voice bade me hope. As we approached the American shore, the active search for the thief was apparently abandoned, and we were anxiously awaiting the supreme moment in which the mysterious enigma would be explained. Who was Arsene Lupin? Under what name, under what disguise was the famous Arsene Lupin concealing himself? And at last, that supreme moment arrived. If I live 100 years, I shall not forget the slightest details of it. How pale you are, Miss Nellie, I said to my companion, as she leaned upon my arm, almost fainting. And you, she replied. Ah, you were so changed. Just think, this is a most exciting moment, and I am delighted to spend it with you, Miss Nellie. I hope that your memory will sometimes revert. But she was not listening. She was nervous and excited. The gangway was placed in position, but before we could use it, a uniformed customs officer came on board. Miss Nellie murmured, I shouldn't be surprised to hear that Arsene Lupin escaped from the vessel during the voyage. Perhaps he preferred death to dishonor, and plunged into the Atlantic rather than be arrested. Oh, do not laugh, she said. Suddenly, I started, and in answer to her question, I said, You see that little old man sitting at the bottom of the gangway? With an umbrella and an olive green coat? It is Ganimard. Ganimard? Yes, the celebrated detective who has sworn to capture Arsene Lupin. Ah, I can understand now why we did not receive any news from this side of the Atlantic. Ganimard was here, and he always keeps his business secret. Then you think you will arrest Arsene Lupin? Who can tell? The unexpected always happens when Arsene Lupin is concerned in the affair. Oh, she exclaimed with that morbid curiosity peculiar to women. I should like to see him arrested. You'll have to be patient. No doubt, Arsene Lupin has already seen his enemy and will not be in a hurry to leave the steamer. Passengers were now leaving the steamer. Leaning on his umbrella with an air of careless indifference, Ganimard appeared to be paying no attention to the crowd that was hurrying down the gangway. The Marquis de Raverdan, Major Rawson, the Italian Rivolta, and many others had already left the vessel before Rosaine appeared. Poor Rosaine. Perhaps it is he after all, said Nellie to me. What do you think? I think it would be very interesting to have Ganimard and Rosaine in the same picture. You take the camera. I am loaded down. I gave her the camera, but too late for her to use it. Rosaine was already passing the detective, an American officer standing behind Ganimard, leaned forward and whispered in his ear. The French detective shrugged his shoulders, and Rosaine passed on. Then, my God, who was Arsene Lupin? Yes, said Miss Nellie aloud. Who can it be? Not more than 20 people now remained on board. She scrutinized them one by one, fearful that Arsene Lupin was not amongst them. We cannot wait much longer, I said to her. She started toward the gangway. I followed. But we had not taken 10 steps when Ganimard barged our passage. Well, what is it? I exclaimed. One moment, monsieur. What's your hurry? I'm escorting mademoiselle. One moment, he repeated in a tone of authority. Then, gazing into my eyes, he said, Arsene Lupin, is it not? I laughed and replied, No, simply Bernard d'Andres. Bernard d'Andres died in Macedonia 3 years ago. Bernard d'Andres were dead, I should not be here. But you are mistaken. Here are my papers. They are his, and I can tell you exactly how they came into your possession. You are a fool, I exclaimed. Arsene Lupin sailed under the name of our... Yes, another of your tricks. A false scent that deceived them at Javier. You play a good game, my boy, but this time luck is against you. I hesitated a moment. Then he hit me a sharp blow on the right arm, which caused me to utter a cry of pain. He had struck the wound, yet unhealed, referred to in the telegram. I was obligated to surrender. There was no alternative. I turned to Miss Melly, who had heard everything. Our eyes met. Then she glanced at the Kodak I had placed in her in her hands, and made a gesture that conveyed to me the impression that she understood everything. Yes. There, between the narrow folds of black leather, in the hollow center of the small object that I had taken the precaution to place in her hands before Ganimard arrested me, it was there I deposited Rosane's 20,000 francs and Lady Jerland's pearls and diamonds. Oh, I pledge my oath that, at the solemn moment, I was in the grasp of Ganimard and his assailants. I was perfectly indifferent to everything. To my arrest, the hostility of the people, everything except this one question. What will Miss Nelly do with the things I had confided to her? In the absence of that material and conclusive proof, I had nothing to fear. But would Miss Nelly decide to furnish that proof? Would she betray me? Would she act the part of an enemy who cannot forgive, or that of a woman whose scorn is softened by feelings of indulgence and involuntary sympathy? She passed in front of me. I said nothing, but bowed very low. Mingled with the other passengers, she advanced to the gangway with my Kodak in her hand. It occurred to me that she would not dare to expose me publicly, but she might do so when she reached a more private place. However, when she had passed only a few feet down the gangway, with a movement of simulated awkwardness, she let the camera fall into the water between the vessel and the pier. Then she walked down the gangway and was quickly lost to the sight in the crowd. She had passed out of my life forever. In a moment, I stood motionless. Then, to Ganimard's great astonishment, I muttered, "What a pity that I am not an honest man." Such was the story of his arrest, as narrated to me by Arsene Lupin himself. The various incidents, which I shall record in writing at a later day, have established between us certain ties. Shall I say of friendship? Yes, I venture to believe that Arsene Lupin honors me with his friendship, and that it is through friendship that he occasionally calls on me and brings into the silence of my library his youthful exuberance of spirits, the contagion of his enthusiasm, and the mirth of a man for whom destiny has naught but favors and smiles. His portrait, how can I describe him? I've seen him 20 times, and each time he was a different person. Even he himself said to me on one occasion, "I no longer know who I am. I cannot recognize myself in the mirror." Certainly, he was a great actor and possessed a marvelous faculty for disguising himself. Without the slightest effort, he could adapt the voice, gestures, and mannerisms of another person. "Why?" he said. "Why should I retain a definite form and feature? Why not avoid the danger of a personality that is ever the same? My actions will serve to identify them." Then he added, with a touch of pride, "So much the better. No one can ever say with absolute certainty, 'There is Arsene Lupin.' The essential point is that the public may be able to refer to my work and say, without fear of mistake, 'Arsene Lupin did that.'" That is the end of the arrest of Arsene Lupin. That was good. I like it. I like that little story. I only reason I could guess that the main character actually was himself, and it's actually I like the idea that he literally just devolves into his characters and stuff like that. You know, to believe a lie, you gotta believe the lie yourself, kind of thing. And like him being able to devolve into and like become these characters, even if it's an entirely new person. And it also makes it see, obviously, the like in the end here, it's clear that he's telling like the story to a writer who's written this and stuff like that, or it's either that or it's like his own psyche, like it's he himself doesn't believe himself to be like Arsene Lupin or something like that. It can be, there's multiple ways you can interpret it. I'm sure Maurice LeBlanc had his own interpretation of it and everything. So, but yeah, but that was the first book, or the first story. So now time for the second one. We got Arsene Lupin in prison. So this might be right off of what we just read. Okay. There's no tourist worthy of the name who does not know the banks of the Seine and has not noticed in passing the little feudal castle of the Malkis. Built upon a rock in the center of the river, an arched bridge connects it with the shore. All around it, the calm waters of the great river play peacefully amongst the reeds, and the wagtails flutter over the moist crests of the stones. The history of the it's Malachite, it's like Malachis castle is stormy like its name, harsh like its outlines, has passed through a long series of combats, sieges, assaults, rapines, and massacres. A recital of the crimes that have been committed there would cause the stoutest heart to tremble. There are many mysterious legends connected with the castle, and they tell us of a famous subterranean tunnel that formerly led to the abbey of Jumiges, and to the manor of Agnes Sorel, mistress of Charles VII. In that ancient habitation of heroes and brigands, the Baron Nathan Cahorn now lived, or Baron Satan, as he was formerly called on the Borries, where he had acquired a fortune with incredible rapidity. The lords of Malki, absolutely ruined, had been obligated to sell the ancient castle at a great sacrifice. It contained an admiral's collection of furniture, pictures, wood carvings, and fineries. The Baron lived there alone, tended by 3 old servants. No one ever enters the place. No one had ever beheld the 3 Rupins that he possessed. His 2 Watu, his Jean Jojan pulpit, and the many other treasures that he had acquired by a vast expenditure of money at public sales. Baron Satan lived in constant fear, not for himself, but for the treasures that he had accumulated with such an earnest devotion and with so much perspicacity that the shrewdest merchant could not say that the Baron had ever erred in his taste or judgment. He loved them, his Biblets. He loved them intensely, like a miser, jealously like a lover. Every day, at sunset, the iron gates at either end of the bridge and at the entrance to the court of honor are closed and barred. At the least touch on these gates, electric bells will ring throughout the castle. One Thursday in September, a letter carrier presented himself at the gate at the head of the bridge, and as usual, it was the Hi Bliss. Why my book upside? It's what are you talking about? It's totally fine. This is how you're supposed to read. It's a joke. It's a joke, Bliss. It's okay. Don't worry about it. But also welcome. Oh yeah. One Thursday in September, a letter carrier presented himself at the gate at the head of the bridge, and as usual, it was the Baron himself who partially opened the heavy portal. He scrutinized the man as minutely as if he were a stranger, although the honest face and twinkling eyes of the postman had been familiar to the Baron for many years. The man laughed as he said, "It is only I, Oh, wait, no, it's the postman. It is only I, Monsieur le Baron. It is not another man wearing my cap and blouse." "One can never tell," muttered the Baron. The man handed him a number of newspapers and then said, "And now, Monsieur le Baron, here is something new." "Something new?" "Yes, a letter, a registered letter." Living as a recluse, without friends or business relations, the Baron never received any letters. The one now presented to him immediately aroused within him a feeling of suspicion and distrust. It was like an evil omen. Who was this mysterious correspondent that dared to disrupt the tranquility of his retreat? "You must sign for it, Monsieur le Baron." He signed, then took the letter, waited until the postman had disappeared beyond the bend in the road, and after walking nervously to and fro for a few minutes, He leaned against the parapet of the bridge and opened the envelope. It contained a sheet of paper bearing this heading: Prison de la Santé, Paris. He looked at the signature, Arsène Lupin. Then he read, Monsieur le Baron, there is, in the gallery in your castle, a picture of Philippe de Champagne, of exquisite finish, which pleases me beyond measure. Your Rupins are also to my taste, as well as your smallest Watteau. In the salon to the right, I have noticed the Louis the 13th condensed tipple, the tapestries of Beauvais, the Empire Guéridon signed Jacob, and the Renaissance chest. In the salon to the left, all the cabinet full of jewels and miniatures. For the present, I will content myself with those articles that can be conveniently removed. I will therefore ask you to pack them carefully and ship them to me, charges prepaid, to the station at Batignolles, Batignolles, within 8 days. Otherwise, I shall be obliged to remove them myself during the night of 27th of September. But, under those circumstances, I shall not content myself with the articles above mentioned. Accept my apologies for any inconvenience I may cause you, and believe me to be your humble servant, Arsène Lupin. P.S. Please do not send the largest Watteau. Although you paid 30,000 francs for it, it is only a copy. The original, having been burned under the director by Barras during a night of debauchery. Consult the memoirs of Garat. I do not care for the Louis the 15th chatelaine, as I doubt its authenticity. I like that. That letter completely upset the Baron. Had it borne any other signature, he would have been greatly alarmed, but signed by Arsène Lupin. As an habitual reader of the newspapers, he was versed in the history of recent crimes, and was therefore well acquainted with the exploits of the mysterious burglar. Of course, he knew that Lupin had been arrested in America by his enemy Ganimard, and was at present incarcerated at the Prison de la Santé. But he knew also that any miracle might be expected from Arsène Lupin. Moreover, that exact knowledge of the castle, the location of the pictures and furniture, gave the affair an alarming aspect. How could he have acquired that information concerning things that no one had ever seen? Also, Bliss, is the, I don't know if you're still here, but is the subtitles working? Like, can you see the subtitles on stream? There should be a little thing on the left saying CC. If you don't see them, just click them off and then turn them back on. Right. And then just let me know if you actually are seeing them, please. If you are still in here. The Baron raised his eyes and contemplated the stern outlines of the castle, its steep rocky pedestal, the depth of the surrounding water, and shrugged his shoulders. Certainly there was no danger. No one in the world can force an entrance to the sanctuary that contained his priceless treasures. No one, perhaps, but Arsène Lupin. For him, gates, walls, and drawbridges did not exist. What use were the most formidable obstacles or the most careful precautions if Arsène Lupin had decided to effect an entrance? That evening, he wrote to the Procureur of the Republic at Rouen. He enclosed the threatening letter and solicited aid and protection. The reply came at once to the effect that Arsène Lupin was in custody to the prison de la Santé. Hey, how did midnight go? It went very well, Cam. Welcome back. Now we're reading a book. We're reading. Look. But also, welcome back, Cam. It went very well. It was a very good time. We finished off with Nope, and you know, it did scare me at one point for sure. I'm sorry. The reply came at once to the effect that Arsène Lupin was in custody in the prison de la Santé under close surveillance, with no opportunity to write such a letter, which was, no doubt, the work of some impostor. But as an act of precaution, the procureur had submitted the letter to an expert in handwriting, who declared that, in spite of certain resemblances, the writing was not that of the prisoner. But, in the words, in spite of certain resemblances, caught the attention of the Baron. In them, he read the possibility of a doubt which appeared to him quite sufficient to warrant the intervention of the law. His fears increased. He read Lupin's letter over and over again. I shall be obligated to remove them myself. And then there was the fixed date, the night of 27th September. To confide in his servants was a proceeding repugnant to his nature. But now, for the first time in many years, he experienced the necessity of seeking counsel with someone. Abandoned by the legal official of his own district and feeling unable to defend himself with his own resources, he was on the point of going to Paris to engage the services of a detective. 2 days passed. On the 3rd day, he was filled with hope and joy as he read the following item in the Réveil de Chaudebec, a newspaper published in a neighboring town. Extra, extra, we have the pleasure of entertaining in our city at the present time the veteran detective Mon Ganimard, who acquired a worldwide reputation by his clever capture of Arsene Lupin. He has come here for rest and recreation, and being an enthusiastic fisherman, he threatens to capture all the fish in our river. Ganimard. Here's the assistance desired by Baron Cahorn. Who could baffle the schemes of Arsene Lupin better than Ganimard, the patient and astute detective? He was the man for the place. The Baron did not hesitate. The town of Caudebec was only 6 kilometers from the castle, a short distance to a man whose step was accelerated by the hope of safety. After several fruitless attempts to ascertain the detective's address, the Baron visited the office of the Réveil, situated on the quay. There he found the writer of the article, who approached the window, exclaimed, Ganimard, you are sure to see him somewhere on the quay with his fishing pole. I met him there and chanced to read his name engraved on his rod. Ah, there he is now, under the trees. Oh, that little man wearing a straw hat. Exactly. He's a gruff fellow, with little to say. 5 minutes later, the Baron approached the celebrated Ganimard, introduced himself, and sought to commence a conversation, but that was a failure. Then, he broached the real object of his interview and briefly stated his case. The other listened, motionless, with his attention riveted on his fishing rod. When the Baron had finished his story, the fisherman turned, with an air of profound pity, and said, Monsieur, it is not customary for thieves to warn people they are about to rob. Arsene Lupin, especially, would not commit such a folly. But, I don't know. What voice should I do for Ganimard? I don't know. I'm very bad at voices, but we're gonna go for it. Let's go, I guess I can try going deeper. I'm not great at a deep voice. Monsieur, if I had the least doubt, believe me, the pleasure of again capturing Arsene Lupin would place me at your disposal. But unfortunately, that young man is already under lock and key. He may escape. No one ever escaped from the Santé. But he, no more than any other. Yet, well, if he escapes, so much the better. I will catch him again. Meanwhile, you go home and go sleep soundly. That will do for the present, you frighten the fish. Conversation was ended. The Baron returned to the castle, reassured to some extent by Ganimard's indifference. He examined the bolts, watched the servants, and during the next 48 hours, he became almost persuaded that his fears were groundless. Certainly, as Ganimard had said, thieves do not warn people they are about to rob. Also, we have about a minute 30 before ads start. I will pause again. The fateful day was close at hand. It was now the 26th of September, and nothing had happened. But at 3 o'clock, the bell rang. The boy brought this telegram. No goods at Baragonal Station. Prepare everything for tomorrow night. Arsene. Oh, that was the telegram. This telegram threw the Baron into such a state of excitement that he even considered the ability of yielding to Lupin's demands. However, he hastened to Shadabek. Ganimard was fishing at the same place, seated on a camp stool. Without a word, he handed him the telegram. "Well, what of it?" said the detective. "What of it? But it is tomorrow." "What is tomorrow?" "The robbery, the pillage of my collections." Ganimard laid down his fishing rod, turned to the bear, and exclaimed in a tone of impatience, "Ah, do you think I am gonna bother myself about such a silly story as that?" "How much do you ask to pass tomorrow night in the castle?" "Not a sou. Now leave me alone." "Name your own price. I am rich and can pay." The offer disconcerted Ganimard, who replied calmly, "I am here on vacation. I have no right to undertake such work." "No one will know. I promise to keep it secret." Also, ads are officially about to start. I will take a second to pause. Oh, nothing will happen. "Come, 3,000 francs. Will that be enough?" Detective, after a moment's reflection, said, "Very well, but I must warn you that you are throwing your money out of the window." "I do not care." "In that case, but after all, what do we know about this devil at Lupin? He may have quite a numerous band of robbers with him. Are you sure of your servants?" "My faith." "Better not count on them. I will telegraph for 2 of my men to help me. And now go. It is better for us not to be seen. Tomorrow evening, about 9 o'clock. We'll take a quick pause right here. Perfect, because the ad just started. Ooh. Bow. We get to listen to nice music going on. Ooh. Wow. I hope the subtitles, like the captions, are working for you guys and everything. Please let me know if they're not. I can try and fix them, but... Do. Okay. Welcome back from the ads. Hopefully they were all right. We all got to just take a quick second. I probably should have taken a drink of water, but I didn't. So now I'm doing it now because I'm not the smartest person in the world. It is fun reading this book, but also like my throat's getting. But I've also done this before with just visual novels, so. Okay. The following day, the date fixed by Arsene Lupin, Baron Cahorn arranged all his panoply of war, furbished his weapons, and, like a sentinel, paced to and fro in front of the castle. He saw nothing, heard nothing. At 8:30 in the evening, he dismissed his servants. They occupied rooms in a wing of the building in a retired spot, well removed from the main portion of the castle. Shortly thereafter, the Baron heard the sound of approaching footsteps. It was Ganimard and his 2 assistants. Great, powerful fellows with immense hands and necks like bulls. After asking a few questions relating to the location of the various entrances and rooms, Ganimard carefully closed and barricaded all the doors and windows through which one could gain access to the threatened rooms. He inspected the walls, raised the tapestries, and finally installed his assistants in the central gallery, which was located between the 2 salons. No nonsense. We're not here to sleep. At the slightest sound, open the windows of the court and call me. Pay attention also to the water side. 10 meters of perpendicular rock is no obstacle to those devils. Ganimard locked his assistants in the gallery, carried away the keys, and said to the Baron, "And now to our post." He had chosen for himself a small room located in the thick outer wall, between the two principal doors, in which in former years had been the watchman's quarters. A peephole opened upon the bridge, another on the court. In one corner, there was an opening to a tunnel. I believe you told me, Monsieur le Baron, that this tunnel is the only subterranean entrance to the castle, and that it has been closed up for time immemorial. Yes. Then, unless there's some other entrance, known only to Arsene Lupin, we are quite safe. He placed 3 chairs together, stretched himself upon them, lighted his pipe, and sighed. Really, Monsieur le Baron, I feel ashamed to accept your money for such a sinecure as well as this. I will tell the story to my friend Lupin. He will enjoy it immensely. Baron did not laugh. He was anxiously listening, but heard nothing save the beat of his own heart. From time to time, he leaned over the tunnel and cast a fearful eye into its depths. He heard the clock strike 11, 12, 1. Suddenly, he seized Ganimard's arm. The latter leaped up, awakened from his sleep. "What do you hear?" asked the Baron in a whisper. "Yes." "What is it?" "I was snoring, I suppose." No, listen." "Ah, yes. It is the sound of an automobile." "Well?" "Well, it is very improbable that Lupin would use an automobile like a battering ram to demolish your castle. Come, Monsieur le Baron, return to your post. I'm going to sleep. Good night." That was the only alarm. Ganimard resumed his interrupted slumbers, and the Baron heard nothing except the regular snoring of his companion. At break of day, they left the room. The castle was enveloped in a profound calm. It was a peaceful dawn on the bosom of a tranquil river. They mounted the stairs, Cahorn radiant with joy, Ganimard calm as usual. They heard no sound. They saw nothing to arouse suspicion. "What did I tell you, Monsieur le Baron? Really? I should not have accepted your offer. I am ashamed." He unlocked the door and entered the gallery. Upon 2 chairs with drooping heads and pendant arms, the detective's 2 assistants were asleep. "Tonnerre de nom d'un chien," exclaimed Ganimard. At the same moment, the Baron cried out, "The pictures! The credence!" He stammered, choked with arms outstretched toward the empty places, toward the denuded walls where naught remained but the useless nails and cords. The Watteau disappeared, the Rubens carried away, the tapestries taken down, the cabinets despoiled of their jewels. "And my Louis XVI, the candelabra, and the Regent chandelier, my 12th century virgin. My 12th century virgin." He ran from one spot to another in wildest despair. He recalled the purchase price of each article, added up the figures, counted his losses, pell-mell, in confused words and unfinished phrases. He stamped with anger. He groaned with grief. He acted like a ruined man whose only hope is suicide. Whew. If anything could have consoled him, it would have been the stupefaction displayed by Ganimard. The famous detective did not move. He appeared to be petrified. He examined the room in a listless manner. The windows closed, the locks on the doors intact, not a break in the ceiling, not a hole in the floor. Everything was in perfect order. The theft had been carried out methodically, according to a logical and inexorable plan. Arsene Lupin, he muttered. Suddenly, as if moved by anger, he rushed upon his 2 assistants and shook them violently. They did not awaken. "The devil!" he cried. Could it be possible? He leaned over them and in turn examined them closely. They were asleep, but their response was unnatural. They have been drugged, said the Baron. He said to the Baron. By whom? By him, of course, or his men under his discretion. That work bears his stamp. In that case, I am lost. Nothing can be done. Nothing, assented Ganimard. It is dreadful. It is monstrous. Lodge a complaint. What good would that do? Oh, it is well to try it. The law has some resources. The law? Bah! It is useless. You represent the law, and at this moment, when you should be looking for a clue and trying to discover something, you do not even stir. Discover something with Arsene Lupin? Why? My dear Monsieur, Arsene Lupin never leaves any clue behind him. He leaves nothing to chance. Sometimes I think he put himself in my way and simply allowed me to arrest him in America. Then I must renounce my pictures. He has taken the gems of my collection. I would give a fortune to recover them. If there is no other way, let him name his own price. Ganimard regarded the Baron attentively as he said, Now that is sensible. Will you stick to it? Yes, yes, but why? An idea that I have. What is it? We'll discuss it later. The official examination does not succeed, but not one word about me if you wish my assistance. He added between his teeth, It is true I have nothing to boast of in this affair. The assistants were gradually regaining consciousness with the bewildered air of people who come out of a hypnotic sleep. They opened their eyes and looked about them in astonishment. Ganimard questioned them, and they remembered nothing. But you must have seen someone. No. Can't you remember? No. Did you drink anything? I considered a moment, and then one of them replied, Yeah, I drank a little water. Out of the carafe? Yeah. So did I, declared the other. Ganimard smelled and tasted it. It had no particular taste and no odor. Come, he said. We're wasting our time here. One can't decide an Arsene Lupin problem in 5 minutes, but morbleu, I swear I will catch him again. The same day, a charge of burglary was duly performed by Baron Cahorn against Arsene Lupin, a prisoner in the prison de la Santé. The Baron afterwards regretted making the charge against Lupin, when he saw his castle delivered over to the gendarmes. The procureur, the judge d'instruction, the newspaper reporters and photographers, and a throng of idle curiosity seekers. The affair soon became a topic of general discussion, and the name of Arsene Lupin excited the public imagination to such an extent that the newspapers filled their columns with the most fantastic stories of his exploits, which found ready credence amongst their readers. But the letter of Arsene Lupin that was published in the Echo de France, no one ever knew how the newspaper obtained it. That letter, in which Baron Cahorn was impudently warned of the coming theft, caused considerable excitement. The most fabulous theories were advanced. Some called the existence of the famous subterranean tunnels, and that was the line of research pursued by the officers of the law, who searched the house from top to bottom, questioned every stone, studied the wainscot and the chimneys, the window frames and the girders and the ceilings. By the light of torches, they examined the immense cellars where the lords of Malachais were wont to store their munitions and provisions. They sounded the rocky foundation to its very center, but it was all in vain. They discovered no trace of a subterranean tunnel. No secret passage existed. But the eager public declared that the pictures and furniture could not vanish like so many ghosts. They are substantial, material things and required doors and windows for their exits and their entrances. And so do the people that removed them. Who were those people? How did they gain access to the castle, and how did they leave it? The police officers of Rouen, convinced of their own impotence, solicited the assistance of the Parisian detective force Mondudo, chief of the Sûreté, sent the best sleuths of the Iron Brigade. He himself spent 48 hours at the castle, but met with no success. Then he sent for Ganimard, whose past services had proved so useful when all else failed. Ganimard listened in silence to the instructions of his superior, then shaking his head, he said, "In my opinion, it is useless to ransack the castle. The solution of the problem lies elsewhere." "Where, then?" "With Arsene Lupin." "With Arsene Lupin? To support that theory, we must admit his intervention." "I do admit it. In fact, I consider it quite certain." "Come, Ganimard." "That is absurd. Arsene Lupin is in prison." "I grant you that Arsene Lupin is in prison, closely guarded, but he must have fetters on his feet, mangles on his wrists, and gag in his mouth before I change my opinion." "Why so obstinate, Ganimard?" "Because Arsene Lupin is the only man in France of sufficient caliber to invent and carry out a scheme of that magnitude." "Mere words, Ganimard." "But true ones. Look, what are they doing? Searching for subterranean passages, stones swinging on pivots, and other nonsense of that kind. But Lupin doesn't employ such old-fashioned methods. He is a modern cracksman, right up to date." "And how would you proceed?" I should ask your permission to speak an hour with him." "In his cell?" "Yes. During the return trip from America, we became very friendly, and I venture to say that if he can give me any information without compromising himself, he will not hesitate to save me from incurring useless trouble." It was shortly after noon when Ganimard entered the cell of Arsène Lupin. The latter, who was lying on his bed, raised his head and uttered a cry of apparent joy. "Ah, this is a real surprise, my dear Ganimard. Here!" Ganimard himself. "In my chosen retreat, I have felt a desire for many things, but my fondest wish was to receive you here." "Very kind of you, I am sure." "Not at all. You know I hold you in the highest regard." "I'm proud of it." "I've always said Ganimard is our best detective. He is almost, you see how candid I am. He is almost as clever as Sherlock Holmes. But I am sorry that I cannot offer you anything better than this hard stool, and no refreshments. Not even a glass of beer. Of course, you will excuse me, as I am here only temporarily." Ganimard smiled and accepted the pre-offered seat. Then the prisoner continued, Mondour, how pleased I am to see the face of an honest man. I'm so tired of those devils of spies who come here 10 times a day to ransack my pockets and my cell to satisfy themselves that I am not preparing to escape. The government is very solicitous on my account." "It is quite right." "Why so? I should be quite contented if they would allow me to live in my own quiet way." "On other people's money?" "Quite so. That would be so simple. But here I am joking, and you are, and no doubt, in a hurry. So let us come to business. Ganimard, to what do I owe the honor of this visit?" "The Cahorn affair," declared Ganimard frankly. "Ah, wait one moment. You see, I've had so many affairs. First, let me fix in my mind the circumstances of this particular case. Ah, yes, now I have it. The Cahorn affairs, Malachi Castle, Seine Inferior, 2 ribbons, a Watu, and a few trifling articles. Trifling? Oh, mon frere. All that is of slight importance, but it suffices to know that the affair interests you. How can I serve you, Ganimard?" "Must I explain to you what steps the authorities have taken in the matter?" "Not at all. I have read the newspapers, and I will frankly state that you have made very little progress." "And that is the reason I've come to see you." "I am entirely at your service." In the first place, the Horn affair was managed by you." Give me like 2 seconds. I think there's someone at my door. I do have food now, so I'll eat during the breaks, but actually I'll eat every so often. So if I go quiet, if I stop reading every so often. That's probably why. I don't- In the first place, the Cahorn affair was managed by you, from A to Z. The letter of warning, the telegram, all mine. I'd have the receipts somewhere. Arsene opened the drawer of a small table of plain white wood, which, with the bed and stool, constituted all the furniture in his cell, and took therefrom 2 scraps of paper, which he handed to Ganimard. Ah, exclaimed the detective in surprise. I thought you were closely guarded and searched. I find that you read the newspapers and collect postal receipts. Bah, these people are so stupid. They open the lining of my vest, they examine the soles of my shoes, they sound the walls of my cell, but they never imagined that Arsene Lupin would be foolish enough to choose such a simple hiding place. Ganimard laughed as he said, "What a droll fellow you are. Well, really, you bewilder me. But come on now. Tell me about the Cahorn affair." Oh, not quite so fast. You would rob me of all my secrets, expose all my tricks. That is a very serious matter. Was I wrong to count on your, complaisance? No, Ganimard. And since you insist, Arsene Lupin paced his cell 2 or 3 times, then, stopping before Ganimard, he asked, "What do you think of my letter to the Baron?" "I think you were amusing yourself by playing to the gallery." "Ah, playing to the gallery! Come, Ganimard. I thought you knew me better. Do I, Arsene Lupin, ever waste my time on such puerilities? Would I have written that letter if I could have robbed the Baron without writing to him? I want you to understand that the letter was indispensable. It was the motor that set the whole machine in motion. Now, let us discuss together a scheme for the robbery of the Malachi Castle. Are you willing?" "Yeah, proceed." "Well, let us suppose a castle, carefully closed and barricaded like that of the Baron Cahorn. Am I to abandon my scheme and renounce the treasures that I covet upon the pretext that the castle which holds them is inaccessible? Evidently not. Should I make an assault upon the castle at the head of a band of adventurers, as they did in ancient times? That would be foolish. Can I gain an admittance by stealing or stealth or cunning? Possible. Then there is only one way to open to me. I must have the owner of the castle invite me to it. That is seriously an unoriginal method. And how easy. Let us suppose that one day the owner receives a letter warning him that a notorious burglar known as Arsene Lupin is plotting to rob him. What will he do? Send a letter to the procureur, who will laugh at him because the said Arsene Lupin is already in prison. Then, in his anxiety and fear, the simple man will ask the assistance of the first comer. Will he not? Very likely. And if he happens to read in a country newspaper that a celebrated detective is spending his vacation in a neighboring town, he will seek that detective? Of course. But, on the other hand, let us presume that, having foreseen that state of affairs, the said Arsene Lupin has requested one of his friends to visit Chartebec, make the acquaintance of the editor of the Rivel, a newspaper to which the Baron is a subscriber, and let said editor understand that such person is the celebrated detective. Then what will happen? The editor will announce in the Revel the presence in Chartebec of said detective. Exactly. And one of 2 things will happen. Either the fish, I mean Cahorn, will not bite and nothing will happen, or what is more likely, he will run and greedily swallow the bait. Thus, behold my Baron Cahorn, imploring the assistance of one of my friends against him. Original indeed. Of course, the pseudo-detective at first refuses to give any assistance. On top of that comes the telegram from Arsene Lupin. The frightened Baron rushes over once more to my friend and offers him a definite sum of money For his services, my friend accepts and summons 2 members of our band, who, during the night, whilst Cahorn is under the watchful eye of his protector, removes certain articles by way of the window and lowers them with ropes into a nice little launch chartered for the occasion. Simple, isn't it? Marvelous, marvelous, exclaimed Ganimard. The boldness of the scheme and the ingenuity of all its details are beyond criticism. But who is the detective whose name and fame served as a magnet to attract the Baron and draw him into your net? There is only one who could do it. Only one. And that is Arsene Lupin's personal enemy, the most illustrious Ganimard. I. Yourself, Ganimard. And really, it is very fun. If you go there and the Baron decides to talk, you'll find that it will be your duty to arrest yourself, just as you arrested me in America. Fine. The revenge is really amusing. I caused Ganimard to arrest Ganimard. Arsene Lupin laughed heartily. The detective, greatly vexed, bit his lips. To him, the joke was quite devoid of humor. The arrival of prison guard gave Ganimard an opportunity to recover himself. The band brought Arsene Lupin's luncheon, furnished by a neighboring restaurant. After depositing the tray upon the table, the guard retired. Lupin broke his bread, ate a few morsels, and continued. But rest easy, my dear Ganimard. You will not go to Malachi. I can tell you something that will astonish you. The Cahorn affair is on the point of being settled. Excuse me? I've just seen the chief of the Surrette. What of that? Does the Dudos know my business better than I do myself? You will learn that Ganimard, that the pseudo Ganimard still remains on very good terms with Baron. The latter has authorized him to negotiate a very delicate transaction with me, and at the present moment, in consideration of a certain sum, it is probable that the Baron has recovered possession of his pictures and other treasures, and on their return, he will withdraw his complaint. Thus, there is no longer any theft, and the law must abandon the case. Ganimard regarded the prisoner with a bewildered air. And how do you know all that? I've just received the telegram I was expecting. You've just received a telegram? This very moment, my dear friend. Out of politeness, I did not wish to read it in your presence, but if you will permit. You are joking, Lupin. My dear friend, if you will be so kind as to break that egg, you will learn for yourself that I am not joking. Mechanically, Ganimard obeyed and cracked the eggshell with the blade of a knife. He uttered a cry of surprise. The shell contained nothing but a small piece of blue paper. At the request of Arsene, he unfolded it. It was a telegram, or rather a portion of a telegram from which the postmarks had been removed. It read as follows. Contract closed. 100,000 balls delivered. All well. 100,000 balls, said Ganimard. Yes, 100,000 francs. Very little, but then, these are hard times, and I have so many heavy bills to meet. If you only knew my budget. Living in the city comes very high. Ganimard arose. His ill humor had disappeared. He reflected for a moment, glancing over the whole affair in an effort to discover a weak point. Then, in a tone and manner that betrayed his admiration of the prisoner, he said, Fortunately, we do not have a dozen such as you to deal with. If we did, we would have to close up shop. Arsene Lupin assumed a modest air as he replied, Bah! A person must have some diversion to occupy his leisure hours, especially when he is in prison. What? Exclaimed Ganimard. Your trial, your defense, the examination, isn't that sufficient to occupy your mind? No, because I have decided not to be present at my trial. Oh? Arsene Lupin repeated positively. I shall not be present at my trial. Really? Ah, my dear monsieur, do you remember? I suppose I am going to ride upon the wet straw. You insult me. Arsene Lupin remains in prison just as long as it pleases him, and not one moment more. Perhaps it would have been more prudent if you had avoided getting there, said the detective ironically. Ah, Monsieur jests. Monsieur must remember that he had the honor to effect my arrest. Know then, my worthy friend, that no one, not even you, could have placed a hand upon me if a much more important event had not occupied my attention at that current critical moment. Also, we have like 50 seconds before ads. I will pause. You astonish me. A woman was looking at me, Ganimard, and I loved her. Do you fully understand what that means, to be under the eyes of a woman that one loves? I cared for nothing in the world but that, and that is why I am here. Permit me to say, you have been here a long time. In the first place, I wish to forget. And do not laugh, it was a delightful adventure, and it is still a tender memory. Besides, I have been suffering from norath, uh, as, sorry, neurasthenia. I can't say that one. Neurasthenia. Life is so feverish these days that it is impossible to take the rest cure. Occasionally, and I find the spot a sovereign remedy for my tired nerves. Arsene Lupin, you're not a bad fellow after all. Thank you, said Lupin. Ganimard, this is Friday. On next Wednesday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I'll smoke my cigar at your house in the Rue Burgolis. Arsene Lupin, I will expect you. They shook hands like two old friends who valued each other at their true worth. Then the detective stepped to the door. Oh. We are nearing the end of this chapter, so we'll be on. Or the end of this little story, so we'll be on the third one soon. But the ad's about to start, so. I'm eating too, so sorry. Okay. Welcome back from the ads. Hopefully they were all right. Okay. We will finish this chapter up, or this little story up now. Okay. So, Ganimard. What is it? Asked Ganimard as he turned back. You've forgotten your watch. My watch? Yes, it's straight into my pocket. He returned the watch, excusing himself. Pardon me, a bad habit. Because they have taken mine, and is no reason why I should take yours. Besides, I have a chronometer here that satisfies me fairly well. Took from the drawer a large gold watch and heavy chain. From whose pocket did that come? Asked Ganimard. Arsene Lupin gave a hasty glance at the initials engraved on the watch. J.B. Who the devil could that be? Ah, yes, I remember. Jules Beauvoir. The judge who conducted my examination. A charming fellow. That's fun. So he stole from the judge that he did the exam, and he's held, like, kept it hidden this whole time. Okay, so these, I like that. Okay, so it looks like all these stories go like back to back. So now so this is the third story, titled The Escape of Arsene Lupin. Let me take a bite of my food just because I don't want it to get fully cold when I eat. All right. Arsene Lupin had just finished his repast and taken from his pocket an excellent cigar, the gold band, which he was examining with unusual care. When the door of his cell was opened, he had barely time to throw the cigar into the drawer and move away from the table. The guard entered. It was the hour for exercise. "I was waiting for you, my dear boy," exclaimed Lupin, in his accustomed good humor. They went out together. As soon as they had disappeared at a turn in the corridor, two men entered the cell and commenced a minute examination of it. One was Inspector Diuzzi. The other was Inspector Fullifant. They wished to verify their suspicions that Arsene Lupin was in communication with his accomplices outside of the prison. The preceding evening, the Grand Journal had published these lines addressed to its court reporter. Sorry, I'm like trying to think of. "Monsieur, in a recent article, you referred to me in most unjustifiable terms. Some days before the opening of my trial, I will call you to account. Arsene Lupin." The handwriting was certainly that of Arsene Lupin. Consequently, he sent letters and no doubt received letters. It was certain that he was preparing for that escape thus arrogantly announced by him. The situation had been intolerable. Acting in conjunction with the examining judge, the chief of Sûreté, Mon Dudos, had visited the prison and instructed the gaoler in regard to the precautions necessary to ensure Lupin's safety. At the same time, he sent the two men to examine this prisoner's cell. They raised every stone, ransacked the bed, did everything customary in such a case, but they discovered nothing, and were about to abandon their investigation when the guard entered hastily and said, "The door! Look in the table drawer! When I entered just now, he was closing it." They opened the drawer, and Diuzzi exclaimed, "Ah, we have him this time!" Oliphant stopped in. "Oh, wait a minute. The chief will want to make an inventory." "This is a very choice cigar." "Leave it there and notify the chief." 2 minutes later, Mon Dudos examined the contents of the drawer. First, he discovered a bundle of newspaper clippings relating to Arsène Lupin, taken from the Argus de la Presse, the tobacco box, a pipe, some paper called onion peel, and 2 books. He read the title of the books. One was an English edition of Carlyle's Hero Warship. The other was a charming Elsevier in modern binding, the manual of Epictetus, a German translation published at Leiden in 1634. On examining the books, he found that all the pages were underlined and annotated. Were they prepared as a code for correspondence, or did they simply express the studious character of the reader? Then he examined the tobacco box and the pipe. Finally, took up the famous cigar with its gold band. Fictre, he exclaimed. "Our friend smokes a good cigar. It's a Henry Clay." With mechanical action of a habitual smoker, he placed the cigar close to his ear and squeezed it to make it crackle. Immediately, he uttered a cry of surprise. The cigar had yielded under the pressure of his fingers. He examined it more closely, quickly discovered something white between the leaves of tobacco. Delicately the aid of a pin, he withdrew a roll of very thin paper, scarcely larger than a toothpick. It was a letter. He unrolled it and found these words, written in a feminine handwriting. The basket has taken the place of the others, 8 out of 10 already. On pressing the outer foot, the plate goes down upward. From 12 to 16 every day, HP will wait. But where? Reply at once. Rest easy. Your friend is watching over you. Mondudo reflected a moment, then said, Oh, it is quite clear the basket, the 8 compartments, from 12 to 16 means from 12 to 4 o'clock. But this HP that will wait? HP must mean automobile. HP, horsepower, is the only way these indicate strength of the motor. A 24-hour HP is an automobile of 24 horsepower. Then he rose and asked, Had the prisoner finished his meal? Yes. And as he has not yet read the message, which is proved by the condition of the cigar, it is probable that he had just received it. How? In his food, concealed in his bread or in a potato, perhaps. Impossible. His food was allowed to be brought in simply to trap him, but we have never found anything in it. Well, we will look for Lupin's reply this evening. Detain him outside for a few minutes. I shall take this to the examining judge, and if he agrees with me, we'll have the letter photographed at once. In an hour, you can replace the letter in the drawer in a cigar similar to this. Prisoner must have no cause for suspicion. Give me a second just to eat. Sorry about that. It was not without a certain curiosity that Mondudos returned to the prison in the evening, accompanied by Inspector Diuzzi. 3 empty plates were sitting on the stove in the corner. Let me see. I'm trying to still think of what to do his voices. He has eaten? Yes, replied the guard. Diuzzi, please cut that macaroni into very small pieces and open that bread roll. Nothing. No, chief. Mondudo examined the plates, the fork, the spoon, and the knife. An ordinary knife with a rounded blade. He turned the handle to the left, then to the right. It yielded and unscrewed. The knife was hollow and served as a hiding place for a sheet of paper. "Hah," he said. "That's not very clever for a man like Arsene, but we mustn't lose any time. You, Diuzzi, go and search the restaurant." Then he read the note. "I trust you, HP, will follow at a distance every day. I will go ahead. Au revoir, dear friend." Oh, sorry. "At last," cried Mondudos, rubbing his hands gleefully. "I think we have the affair in our own hands. A little strategy on our part, and the escape will be a success in so far as the test of his confederates are concerned." "But if Arsene Lupin slips through your fingers," suggested the guard. "We will have a sufficient number of men to prevent that. If, however, he displays too much cleverness, my foi, so much the worse for him. As for his band of robbers, since the chief refuses to speak, the others must." And as a matter of fact, Arsene Lupin had very little to say. For several months, Jules Bouvier The examining judge had exerted himself in vain. The investigation had been reduced to a few uninteresting arguments between the judge and the advocate, Maitre Donval, one of the leaders of the bar. From time to time, through courtesy, Arsene Lupin would speak. One day he said, "Yes, monsieur le judge, I quite agree with you. The robbery of the Credit Lyonnaise, the theft in the Rue de Babylon, the issue of the counterfeit banknotes, the burglaries at the various chateaux on Mesnil, Oret, Imblevain, Grosseliers, Malaquais, all my work, monsieur. I did it all." "Then will you explain to me?" "It is useless. I confess everything in a lump, everything and even 10 times more than you know nothing about." Wearied by his fruitless task, the judge has suspended his examinations, but he resumed them after the 2 intercepted messages were brought to his attention. And regularly, at midday, Arsene Lupin was taken from the prison to the depot in the prison van with a certain number of other prisoners. They returned about 3 or 4 o'clock. We need some more. Sorry. Now, one afternoon, this return trip was made under unusual conditions. The other prisoners not having been examined, it was decided to take back Arsene Lupin first. Thus, he found himself in the vehicle, alone in the vehicle. These prison vans, vulgarly called paniers à la salade, or salad baskets, are divided lengthwise by a central corridor from which open 10 compartments, 5 to either side. Each compartment is so arranged that the occupant must assume and retain a sitting position, and consequently, the 5 prisoners are seated one upon the other, and yet separated one from the other by partitions. A municipal guard standing at one end watches over the corridor. Arsene was placed in the 3rd cell on the right when the heavy vehicle started. He carefully calculated when they left the Quai de la Horloge, and when they passed the Palais de Justice. Then about the center of the bridge, Saint Michael, with his outer foot, that is to say, his right foot, he pressed upon the metal plate that closed his cell. Immediately, something clicked, and the plate moved. He was able to ascertain that he was located between the 2 wheels. He waited, keeping a sharp lookout. The vehicle was proceeding slowly along the boulevard Saint Michael. At the center of Saint Germain, it stopped. A truck horse had fallen. Traffic having been interrupted, a vast throng of fiacres and omnibuses had gathered there. Arsene Lupin looked out. The prison van had stopped close to the one he occupied. He moved the plate still farther, but put his foot on one of the spokes of the wheel and leaped to the ground. A coachman saw him, roared with laughter, then tried to raise an outcry, but his voice was lost in the noise of the traffic that had commenced to move again. Moreover, Arsene Lupin was already far away. He had run for a few steps, but once upon the sidewalk, he turned and looked around. He seemed to scent the wind like a person who was certain which direction to take. Then, having decided, put his hands in his pockets, and with the careless air of an idle stroller, proceeded up the boulevard. It was a warm, bright autumn day, and the cafes were full. He took a seat on the terrace of one of them. He ordered a bock and a package of cigarettes. He emptied his glass slowly, smoked one cigarette, and lighted a second. Then he asked the waiter to send the proprietor to him. When the proprietor came, Arsene spoke to him in a voice loud enough to be heard by everyone. I regret to say, monsieur, I have forgotten my pocketbook. Perhaps on the strength of my name, you will be pleased to give me credit for a few days. I am Arsene Lupin. The proprietor looked at him, thinking he was joking, but Arsene repeated, Lupin, prisoner at the Santé, but now a fugitive. I venture to assume that the name inspires you with perfect confidence in me. And he walked away, amidst shouts of laughter, whilst the proprietor stood amazed. Lupin strolled along the Rue Soufflot, and turned into the Rue Saint-Jacques. He pursued his way slowly, smoking his cigarettes and looking to the shop windows. At the Boulevard de la Port Royale, he took his bearings, discovered where he was, and then walked in the direction of the Rue de la Santé. The high, forbidding walls of the prison were now before him. He pulled his hat forward to shade his face. Then, approaching the sentinel, he asked, Is this the prison de la Santé? Yeah. Yeah. I wish to regain my cell. The van left me on the way, and I would not abuse. Now, young man, move along, quick, growled the sentinel. Pardon me, but I must pass through that gate. If you prevent Arsene Lupin from entering the prison, it will cost you dear, my friend. Arsene Lupin? What are you talking about? I am sorry, I haven't a card with me, said Arsene, fumbling in his pockets. The sentinel eyed him from head to feet in astonishment. Then, without a word, he rang a bell. The iron gate was partly opened, and Arsene walked inside. Almost immediately, he encountered the keeper of the prison, gesticulating and baying of violent anger. Arsene smiled and said, Come, monsieur, don't play that game with me. What? They take the precaution to carry me alone in the van, prepare a nice obstruction, and imagine I am going to take to my heels and rejoin my friends. Well, and what about the 20 agents of the Surete who accompanied us on foot, in vaquiers, and on bicycles? No, the arrangement did not please me. I should not have got away alive. Tell me, monsieur, did they count on that? He shrugged his shoulders and added, I beg of you, monsieur, not to worry about me. When I wish to escape, I shall not require any assistance. On the second day thereafter, the Echo de France, which had apparently become the official report of the exploits of Arsene Lupin, it was said that he was one of its principal shareholders, published a most complete account of his attempted escape. The exact wording of the messages exchanged between the prisoner and his mysterious friend, the means by which correspondence was constructed, the complicity of the police, the promenade of the Boulevard Saint-Michel, the incident of the Café Soufflot, everything was disclosed. It was known that the search of the restaurant and its waiters by Inspector Diuzzi had been fruitless, and the public also learned an extraordinary thing which demonstrated to the infinite variety of resources that Lupin possessed. The prison van in which he was being carried was prepared for the occasion and substituted by his accomplices for one of the 6 vans which did not service at the prison. The next escape of Arsene Lupin was not doubted by anyone. He announced it himself in categorical terms in a reply to Montbouvier on the day following his attempted escape. The judge having made a jest about the affair, Arsene was annoyed, and firmly eyeing the judge, he said emphatically, Listen to me, monsieur. I give you my word of honor that this attempted flight was simply preliminary to my general escape plan of escape. I do not understand, said the judge. It is not necessary that you should understand. And when the judge, in the course of the examination, which was reported at length in the columns of the Echo de France, when the judge sought to resume his investigation, Arsene Lupin exclaimed with an assumed air of lassitude, Mon Dieu, mon Dieu, mon Dieu, mon Dieu. What's the use? All these questions are of no importance. What? No importance? Cried the judge. No, because I shall not be present at the trial. You will not be present? No, I have fully decided on that, and nothing will change my mind. Such assurance, combined with the inexplicable indiscretions that Arsene committed every day, served to annoy and mystify the officers of law. There were secrets known only to Arsene Lupin, secrets that he alone could divulge, but for what purpose did he reveal them, and how? Arsene Lupin was changed to another cell. The judge closed his preliminary investigation. No further proceedings were taken in his case for a period of 2 months, during which time Arsene was seen almost constantly lying on his bed with his face turned toward the wall. Changing of his cell seemed to discourage him. He refused to see his advocate. He exchanged only a few necessary words with his keepers. During the fortnight preceding his trial, he resumed his vigorous life. He complained of the want of air. Consequently, early every morning, he was allowed to exercise in the courtyard, guarded by 2 men. Public curiosity had not died out. Every day, it expected to be regaled with news of his escape. And it is true, he had gained a considerable amount of public sympathy by reason of his verve, his gaiety, his diversity, his intensive genius, and the mystery of his life. Arsene Lupin must escape. It was his inevitable fate. Public expected it, and was surprised that the event had been delayed so long. Every morning, the prefect of police asked his secretary, "Well, has he escaped yet?" "No, monsieur le prefect." "Tomorrow, probably." And on the day before the trial, a gentleman called at the office of the Grand Journal, asked to see the court reporter, threw his card in the reporter's face, and walked rapidly away. These words were written on the card: "Arsene Lupin always keeps his promises." It was under these conditions that the trial commenced. An enormous crowd gathered at the court. Everybody wished to see the famous Arsene Lupin. They had a gleeful anticipation that the prisoner would play some audacious pranks upon the judge. Advocates and magistrates, reporters and men of the world, actresses and society women were crowded together on the benches provided for the public. It was a dark, somber day with a steady downpour of water, or of rain. Only a dim light pervaded the courtroom. The spectators caught a very indistinct view of the prisoner when the guards brought him in. But his heavy, shambling feet, or shambling walk, the manner in which he dropped into his seat, and his passive, stupid appearance were not at all pre-proposing. Several times his advocate, one of Mondanville's assistants, spoke to him, but he simply shook his head and said nothing. We got less than 3 minutes before the next ad, just so everybody knows. The clerk read the indictment. Then the judge spoke. "Prisoner at the bar, stand up. Your name, age, occupation." Not receiving any reply, the judge repeated, "Your name, I ask you your name." A thick, slow voice muttered, "Badru." No, it's how is this? Slow, thick, slow voice. "Badru Desire." A murmur of surprise pervaded the courtroom, but the judge proceeded, "Badru Desire, a new alias. Well, as you have already assumed a dozen different names, and this one is, no doubt, as imaginary as the others, we will adhere to the name of Arsene Lupin, by which you are more generally known." The judge referred to his notes and continued, "For, despite the most diligent search, your past history remains unknown. Your case is unique in the annals of crime. We know not whom you are, whence you came, your birth and breeding. All is a mystery to us. 3 years ago, you appeared in our midst as Arsene Lupin,
presenting to us a strange combination of intelligence and perversion, immorality and generosity. Our knowledge of your life prior to that date is vague and problematic. It may be that the man called Rustat, who, 8 years ago, worked with Dixon, the prestidigitator, was none other than Arsene Lupin. It is probable that the Russian student who 6 years ago attended the laboratory of Dr. Altier at the St. Louis Hospital, and who often astonished the doctor by the ingenuity of his hypotheses on subjects of bacteriology and the boldness of his experiments in diseases of the skin, was none other than Arsene Lupin. It is probable also that Arsene Lupin was the professor who introduced the Japanese art of jujitsu to the partisan public. We have some reason to believe that Arsene Lupin, the bicyclist who won the Grand Prix d'Exposition, received his 10,000 francs and was never heard of again. Arsene Lupin may have been also the person who saved so many lives through the little dormer window at the charity bazaar, and at the same time picketed their pockets.
Ad's about to start, so everybody knows. Ooh. Okay, Ad is started. I'm gonna mute and eat. Welcome back from the ads. Hopefully they were good. I like that we get to hear a little bit of what all of Arsene has done. The judge paused for a moment, then continued.
Such is that epoche which seems to have been utilized by you in a thorough preparation for the welfare you have since waged against society. A methodical apprenticeship in which you developed your strength, energy, and a skill to the highest point possible. Do you acknowledge the accuracy of these facts?
During this discourse, the prisoner had stood balancing himself, first on one foot, then on the other. With the shoulders stooped and arms inert, under the strongest light, one could observe his extreme thinness, his hollow cheeks, his projecting cheekbones, his earthen-colored face dotted with small red dots, and framed in a rough, straggling beard. Prison life had caused him to age and wither. He had lost the youthful face, the elegant figure we had seen portrayed so often in the newspaper. Got that, guys. It appeared as if he had not heard the question propounded by the judge. Twice it was repeated to him, then he raised his eyes, seemed to reflect, then making a desperate effort, he murmured, But Drew desire. The judge smiled as he said, I do not understand the theory of your defense, Arsene Lupin. You are seeking to avoid responsibility for your crimes on the ground of impecility. I don't know how to say that one. Such a line of defense is open to you, but I shall proceed with the trial and pay no heed to your vagaries. He then narrated at length the various thefts, swindles, and forgeries charged against Lupin. Sometimes he questioned the prisoner, but the latter simply grunted or remained silent. The examination of witnesses commenced. Some of the evidence given was immaterial, other portions of it seemed more important, but through all of it, there ran a vein of contradictions and inconsistencies. A wearisome obscurity enveloped the proceedings until Detective Ganimard was called as a witness. Then interest was revived. From the beginning, the actions of the veteran detective appeared strange and unaccountable. He was nervous and ill at ease. Several times he looked at the prisoner with obvious doubt and anxiety. Then, with his hands resting on the rail in front of him, he recounted the events in which he had participated, including his pursuit of the prisoner across Europe and his arrival in America. He was listened to with great avidity. As his capture of Arsene Lupin was well known to everyone through the medium of the press, toward the close of his testimony, after referring to his conversations with Arsene Lupin, he stopped twice, embarrassed and undecided. It was apparent that he was possessed of some thought which he feared to utter. The judge said to him sympathetically, If you are ill, you may retire for the present. No, but... He stopped, looked sharply at the prisoner, and said, I ask permission to scrutinize the prisoner at closer range. There is some mystery about him that I must solve. He approached the accused man, examined him attentively for several minutes, then returned to the witness stand, and in an almost solemn voice, he said, I declare on oath that the prisoner now before me is not Arsene Lupin. Profound silence followed the statement. The judge, nonplussed for a moment, exclaimed, Oh, what do you mean? That is absurd. The detective continued, At first sight, there is a certain resemblance, but if you carefully consider the nose, the mouth, the hair, the color of the skin, you will see that it's not Arsene Lupin. And the eyes... did he ever have those alcoholic eyes? Come, witness, what do you mean? Do you pretend to say that we are trying the wrong man? In my opinion, yes. Arsene Lupin has, in some manner, contrived to put this poor devil in his place. Was this man his willing accomplice? This dramatic denouement caused much laughter and excitement amongst the spectators. The judge adjourned the trial and sent for Bouvier, the gaoler, and guards employed in the prison. When the trial was resumed, Bouvier and gaoler examined the accused and declared that there was only a very slight resemblance between the prisoner and Arsene Lupin. Oh, well then, exclaimed the judge, who is this man? Where does he come from? What is he in prison for? Two of the prison guards were called, and both of them declared that the prisoner was Arsene Lupin. The judge breathed once more, but one of the guards then said, Yeah, I think it is him. What? Cried the judge impatiently. You think it is he? What do you mean by that? Well, I saw very little of the prisoner. He was placed in my charge in the evening, and for 2 months he seldom stirred, but laid on his bed with his face to the wall.
What about the time prior to those 2 months?
Before that, he occupied a cell in another part of the prison. He was not in cell 24. Here, the head gaoler interrupted and said, "We changed him to another cell after his attempted escape."
But you, monsieur, you have seen him during those 2 months.
I had no occasion to see him. He was always quiet and orderly.
And this prisoner is not Arsene Lupin?
No.
Then who is he? Demanded the judge.
I do not know.
Then we have before us a man who was substituted for Arsene Lupin 2 months ago. How do you explain that?
I cannot. In absolute despair, the judge turned to the accused and addressed him in a conciliatory tone.
Prisoner, can you tell me how and since when you became an inmate of the prison de la Santé?
Did he literally just like get somebody like did Arsene just while he was out just switch places with somebody? The engaging manner of the judge was calculated to disarm the mistrust and awaken the understanding of the accused man. He tried to reply. Finally, under the clever and gentle questioning, he succeeded in framing a few phrases from which the following story was gleaned. 2 months ago, he had been taken to the depot, examined and released. As he was leaving the building, a free man, he was seized by 2 guards and placed in the prison van. Since then, he had occupied cell for 24. He was contented there, plenty to eat, and he slept well, so he did not complain. All that seemed probable, and amidst the mirth and excitement of the spectators, the judge adjourned the trial until the story could be investigated and verified. The following facts were at once established by an examination of the prison records. 8 weeks before, a man named Baudry Desire had slept at the depot. He was released the next day and left the depot at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The same day at 2 o'clock, having been examined for the last time, Arsene Lupin left the depot in a prison van. Had the guards made a mistake? Had they been deceived by the resemblance and carelessly substituted this man for the prisoner? Another question suggested itself. Had the substitution been arranged in advance? In that event, Boudreau must have been an accomplice and must have caused his own arrest for the express purpose of taking Lupin's place. But then, by what miracle had such a plan, based on a series of improbable chances, been carried to success? Baudru Desire was turned over to the anthropological service. They had never seen anything like him. However, they easily traced his past history. He was known at Courbevoie, at Asnieres, and at Levalos. He lived on alms and slept in one of those rag pickers' huts near the Barrière de Touraines. He had disappeared from there a year ago. Had he been enticed away by Arsene Lupin? There was no evidence to that effect, and even if that was so, did not explain the flight of the prisoner. That still remained a mystery. Amongst 20 theories which sought to explain it, not one was satisfactory. Of the escape itself, there was no doubt. An escape that was incomprehensible, sensational, in which the public, as well as the officers of the law, could detect a carefully prepared plan, a combination of circumstances marvelously dovetailed, whereof the denouement fully justified the confident prediction of Arsene Lupin. I shall not be present at my trial. After a month of patient investigation, the problem remained unsolved. Poor devil of a Baudru could not be kept in prison indefinitely, and to place him on trial would be ridiculous. There was no charge against him, consequently he was released, but the chief of the Sureti resolved to keep him under surveillance. This idea originated with Ganimard. From his point of view, there was neither complicity nor chance. Baudru was an instrument upon which Arsene Lupin had played with his extraordinary skill. Baudru, which, when set at liberty, would lead them to Arsene Lupin, or at least to some of his accomplices. Two inspectors, Folifant and Diuzi, were assigned to assist Ganimard. One foggy morning in January, the prison gates opened, and Baudru Desiree stepped forth, a free man. At first, he appeared to be quite embarrassed, and walked like a person who has no precise idea whither he is going. He followed the Rue de la Santé and the Rue Saint-Jacques. He stopped in front of an old clothes shop, removed his jacket and his vest, sold his vest, on which he realized a few sous. Then, replacing his jacket, he proceeded on his way. He crossed the Seine at the Châtelet. An omnibus picked him up, or passed him. Sorry. He wished to enter it, but there was no place. The controller advised him to secure a number, so he entered the waiting room. Ganimard called to his two assistants, and without removing his eyes from the waiting room, he said to them, "Stop a carriage. No, two. That'll be better. I'll go with one of you, and we will follow him." The men obeyed, yet Baudru did not appear. Ganimard entered the waiting room. It was empty. "Idiot that I am," he muttered. "I forgot there was another exit." There was an interior corridor extending from the waiting room to the Rue Saint-Martin. Ganimard rushed through it and arrived just in time to observe Baudru upon the top of the sorry, this is a very hard word. Batignolles Jardin des Plantes omnibus as it was turning the corner of the Rue de Rivoli. He ran and caught the omnibus, but he had lost his two assistants. He must continue the pursuit alone. In his anger, he was inclined to seize the man by the collar without ceremony. Was it not the premeditation, and by means of an ingenious ruse, that his pretended imbecile had separated him from his assistants? He looked at Baudru. The latter was asleep on the bench, his head rolling from side to side, his mouth half opened, and an incredible expression of stupidity on his blotched face. No such an adversary was incapable of deceiving old Ganimard. It was a stroke of luck, nothing more. At the Galeries Lafayette, the man leaped from the omnibus and took the La Muette tramway, followed the Boulevard Haussmann and the Avenue Victor Hugo. Baudru aligned at La Muette station, and with a nonchalant air strolled into Bois de Boulogne. He wandered through one path after another, and sometimes retraced his steps. What was he seeking? Had he any definite object? At the end of an hour, he appeared to be faint from fatigue, and noticing a bench, he sat down. The spot, not far from Auteuil, on the edge of a pond hidden amongst the trees, was absolutely deserted. After the lapse of another half hour, Ganimard became impatient and resolved to speak to the man. He approached and took a seat. Besides, Baudru lighted a cigarette, traced some figures in the sand with the end of his cane, and said, It's a pleasant day." No response, but suddenly the man burst into laughter. Oh, wait, no, sorry. "It's a pleasant day." No response, but suddenly the man burst into laughter, a happy, mirthful laugh, spontaneous and irresistible. Ganimard felt his hair stand on end in horror and surprise. It was that laugh, the infernal laugh he knew so well. With a sudden movement, he seized the man by the collar and looked at him with a keen, penetrating gaze, and found that he no longer saw the man Baudru. To be sure, he saw Baudru, but at the same time, he saw the other, the real man, Lupin. He discovered the intense life in the eyes. He filled up with the shrunken features. He perceived the real flesh beneath the flabby skin, the real mouth through the grimaces that deformed it. Those were the eyes and mouth of the other, and especially his keen, alert, mocking expression, so clear and useful. Arsene Lupin! Arsene Lupin! He stammered. Then in a sudden fit of rage, he seized Lupin by the throat and tried to hold him down. In spite of his 50 years, he still possessed unusual strength, whilst his adversary was apparently in a weak condition. But the struggle was a brief one. Arsene Lupin made only a slight movement, and as suddenly as he had made the attack, Ganimard released his hold. The right arm fell inert, useless. If you had taken lessons in jiu-jitsu at the Quai de Orfèvres, said Lupin, you would know that that blow is called urishiji in Japanese. A second more, and I would have broken your arm, and that would have been just what you deserve. I'm surprised that you, an old friend whom I respect and before whom I voluntarily expose my incognito, should abuse my confidence in that violent manner. It is unworthy. What's the matter? Ganimard did not reply. That escape for which he deemed himself responsible. Was it not he, Ganimard, who, by his sensational evidence, had led the court into serious error? That escape appeared to him like a dark cloud on his professional career. A tear rolled down his cheek to his gray mustache. Oh, mon dieu, Ganimard, don't take it to heart. If you had not spoken, I would have arranged for someone else to do it. I couldn't allow poor Baudru Desiree to be convicted. Then, murmured Ganimard, it was you that was there? And now you are here? It is I, always I, only I. Can it be possible? Oh, it is not the work of a sorcerer. Simply as the judge remarked at the trial, the apprenticeship of a dozen years that equips a man to cope successfully with all the obstacles in life. But your face, your eyes, you can understand that if I worked 18 months with Dr. Altier at the St. Louis hospital. It was not out of love for the work. I considered that he, who would one day have the honor of calling himself Arsene Lupin, ought to be exempt from the ordinary laws governing appearance and identity. Appearance that can be modified at will. For instance, a hypodermic injection of paraffin will puff up the skin at the desired spot. Pyrogallic acid will change your skin to that of it's a different time. We'll say, well, actually, yeah, never mind. No, this is in France. Never mind. It's not pyrogallic acid will change your skin to that of an Indian. The juice of the greater celandine will adorn you with the most beautiful eruptions and tumors. Another chemical affects the growth of your beard and hair. Another changes the tone of your voice. Add to that 2 months of dieting and cells 24. Exercises repeated 1,000 times to enable me to hold my features in a certain grimace, to carry my head at a certain inclination, and adapt my back and shoulders to a stooping posture. Then 5 drops of atropine in the eyes to make them haggard and wild, and the trick is done. I do not understand how you deceived the guards. The change was progress. The evolution was so gradual that they failed to notice it. But Baudru Desiree, Baudru exists. He is a poor, harmless fellow whom I met last year, and really he bears a certain resemblance to me. Considering my arrest as a possible event, I took charge of Baudru and studied the points wherein we differed in appearance with a view to correct them in my own person. My friends caused him to remain at the depot overnight and to leave there next day about the same hours I did. Coincidence easily arranged. Of course, it was necessary to have a record of reality, otherwise, the police would have sought elsewhere to find out my identity. But in offering them this excellent Baudru, it was inevitable. You understand? Inevitable that they would seize upon him, and despite the insurmountable differences of a substitution, they would prefer to believe in a substitution than confess their ignorance. Yeah, of course, said Garnemon. And then, exclaimed Arsene Lupin, I held in my hands a trump card, an anxious public watching and waiting for my escape. That is the fatal error into which you fell. You and the others, in the course of that fascinating game pending between me and the officers of the law, wherein the stake was my liberty, And you suppose that I was playing to the gallery, that I was intoxicated with my success, I, Arsene Lupin, guilty of such weakness. Oh no. And no longer ago than the Cahorn affair, you said. When Arsene Lupin cries from the housetops that he will escape, he has some objective in view. But sapristi, sapristi, you must understand that in order to escape, I must create in advance a public belief in that escape. A belief amounting to an article of faith, an absolute conviction, a reality as glittering as the sun, and I did create that belief that Arsène Lupin would escape, that Arsène Lupin would not be present at his trial, and when you gave your evidence and said that man is not Arsène Lupin, everybody was prepared to believe you. Had one person doubted it, had anyone uttered this simple restriction, suppose it is Arsène Lupin. From that moment, I was lost. If anyone had scrutinized my face, not imbued with the idea that I was not Arsène Lupin, as you and the others did at my trial, but with the idea that I might be Arsène Lupin, then despite all my precautions, I should have been recognized. But I had no fear. Logically, psychologically, no one could entertain the idea that I was Arsène Lupin. He grasped Ganimard's hand. Come, Ganimard. Confess that on the Wednesday after our conversation, the Prison de la Santé, you expected me at your house at 4 o'clock, exactly as I said I would go. And your prison van? Said Ganimard, evading the question. A bluff. Some of my friends secured that old unused van and wished to make that attempt, but I considered it impractical without the occurrence of a number of unusual circumstances. However, I found it useful to carry out that attempted escape and give it the widest publicity. An audaciously planned escape, though not completed, gave to the succeeding one the character of reality simply by anticipation. So that cigar, followed by myself as well as the knife, and the letters written by me, and the mysterious correspondent did not exist. Ganimard reflected a moment, then said, when the anthropological service had Baudru's case under consideration, why did they not perceive that his measurements coincided with those of Arsène Lupin? My measurements are not in existence. Indeed. At least they are false. I have given considerable attention to that question. In the first place, the Bertillon system of records, the visible marks of identification, and you have seen that they are not infallible. And after that, the measurements of the head, the fingers, the ears, etc. Of course, such measurements are more or less infallible. Absolutely. No, but it costs money to get around. Before we left America, one of the employees of the service there accepted so much money to insert false figures in my measurements. Consequently, Baudru's measurements should not agree with those of Arsène Lupin. After a short silence, Ganimard asked, what are you going to do now? Now, replied Lupin, I'm going to take a rest, enjoy the best of food and drink, and gradually recover my former healthy condition. It is all very well to become Baudru or some other person on occasion and to change your personality as you do your shirt, but you soon grow weary of the change. I feel exactly as I imagined the man who lost his shadow must have felt, and I shall be glad to be Arsène Lupin once more. He walked to and fro for a few minutes, then stopping in front of Ganimard, he said, you have nothing more to say, I suppose? Yeah. Should like to know if you intend to reveal the true state of facts connected with your escape. The mistake that I made. Oh, no one will ever know that it was Arsène Lupin who was discharged. It is to my own interest to surround myself with mystery, and therefore I shall permit my escape to retain its almost miraculous character. So, have no fear on that score. My dear friend, I shall say nothing. And now, goodbye. I'm going out to dinner this evening and have only sufficient time to dress. I thought you wanted a rest. Ah, there are duties to society that one cannot avoid. Tomorrow I shall rest. Where do you dine tonight? With the British ambassador. that is the end of the escape of Arsene Lupin. That was fun. I like that. Yeah. It did catch me. I didn't say it because obviously we were reading, but it did actually catch me off guard because I was all like, "Oh, the guy that they're bringing in, that's not Lupin." And then once we got closer and closer, and then following him, I'm all like, "Oh, it's gonna be he is Lupin." But that was good. All right, I think we're gonna call it there, just because it's been 2.5 hours. We got through 3 short stories. There's still, there's still 6 more left to do, but my you know, after all, literally, it's just nonstop talking for 2 hours, 2.5 hours. It gets to you. So, but thank you guys so much for coming out and just hanging out with me. I know this was different. I know this is not something I've done before, but I wanted to give it a try at least once. And I might do it again sometime because I obviously want to. I don't know if we'll continue with this or we'll switch over to Death on the Nile because I've been meaning to read that as well. But I liked these stories. They were actually very cool. I've been wanting to read them for a while, so I'm glad that I finally did. Let's figure out who we're gonna raid out to, and then yeah, then we'll call it a night. Doo 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 doo. Hmm. Yeah, we played Yu-Gi-Oh with Mitsuri. Let's raid out to her. She's playing some Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, so that's always fun. That's the music now. All right, here's the fun little raid message. I hope everybody had a fun time with this. I did. Like, I know it was different, but it was something I wanted to do for a while, and I still very much enjoyed it. And I hope you guys did too. But yeah. All right. I'm gonna click start rate and just get it right now. But thank you guys for showing up. I'll post my schedule later tonight after I'm done. But I just wanted to say, have a good rest of your night, and I will see you guys again. See ya.